All right, so in this problem, we're asked to modify our code again, and this time to not allow the program to crash. Um, so as an example, what would generate a crash? If we don't look at this example, well, actually, let me go back. So if I take a look at that previous code, when I run it, it asks me to put in my name. What is the first number? If I type in 5, this generates a value error. Key thing is it generates an error. And so the program completely crashes. So, if you had a robust piece of software, you can imagine you're playing World of Warcraft and someone does something wrong and then all of a sudden it just says, oh, sorry, crash. You don't want that to happen. You want the game to sort of continue. You want your program to be able to continue working. So you want to try to check for errors and not have the system just stop functioning. So that's an example of how we could crash a program. So robust software will not crash like that. So I'm just going to take our code for now, and I'm going to come back into this area here, looking at the exception handling. So we have an example of what crash software. I've just pasted in the previous code, but what I want to do now is I want to take a look at the code that's provided. So we have some sort of a while true loop that's going to continue forever. And then there's a statement called try. And this is known as a try and except block of code. Again, it ends with a colon, so the code after that will be indented. And it's exactly what it does. It says, hey, try this bit of code. Try lines 3 to 5, because that's all indented. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then instead hop into this except statement. So if you generate some sort of an error, don't crash on me. Instead, hop down and do this bit of code. So we can see that try says attempt the indented code. If an error results, don't crash. Instead, jump to the except block down here. So let's try running that. Please enter a digit. So if I take a 5, input, remember, it returns a string. So this would be a string value. And then I take the integer value of a string of 5, and the computer understands that. We can convert that to the numeral 5. So if I hit enter, it says, thanks for entering a digit. You wouldn't believe how many users will actually spell a number. And then, so it did that. Then it executed break. The reason for break is to get out of this while true statement. So this bit of code is a way to check to make sure that I get the correct input. I put in a while true. If I am successful, I immediately break out after that. And if the rest of the program continues, what is your name? But let's see what happens if I, please enter a digit. If I type in the number 5, that is a string of characters, and the computer will try to take an integer value of that. It makes no sense. It can't take to convert that to a number. So this will generate an error, and that's what we saw previously. It said a value error. So if I hit enter here now, it caught the error, and the error existed right here. So immediately, as soon as that error is executed, as soon as it spots the error, it immediately jumps down to line 6 and does the accept portion. And it says, I'm sorry, but you need to enter an integer value. I'm sorry, you need to enter an integer value. Line 7 is finished, but we're inside of a while true loop, so it comes back up to while true. It says, okay, try this next bit of code. Next bit of code says, please enter a digit. I'm going to type in something. It's going to try this. It's going to try to store that in n. It takes that integer value. You can't do it, so it jumps down to the accept block. I'm sorry, but you have to enter a digit. So I now enter 5, and now the program continues along the way. So that's this is known as exception handling. By using the while true loop, it allows us to allow the user to input again and again and again until they get the correct answer. And when they do get the correct answer, then it's important that you break out of the loop, break out of the try section, so that gets you out of the loop. So we're going to now try to implement that. I'm going to triple quote this. So this is sample code that I might want to come back and reference as I'm working on my program. So triple quotes will take out multiple lines. And I don't need that anymore either. Okay, so please enter your name. So we're not going to expect some sort of an error here, because if I put in strange numbers, I can try putting in 45.4. Welcome 45.4. So that is not going to generate an error because it returns a string value, and everything I do with name is working with strings. So we're not going to have any errors as a result of that. So that string information will be written to our user names file. That's working. So the next thing, what is the first number? So in this case, what is the first number? So this portion here is where we might generate an error. So we are currently already inside of a while true loop. That allows us to run the program again and again. But what I want to specifically do is deal with this portion and make sure that we do not generate an error here. So that portion will be replicated the same fashion we did up here, where I had an input statement inside of a try inside of a while true loop. So I'm going to try. Sure. I'm going to try that, except I'm going to say, I'm sorry, we need a number. Because that's the only thing that's going to generate this error. You could also just say, if you're not certain what sort of things what the actual error might be, you could say, I'm sorry, we do not understand your answer. Please enter a number like 7, etc. So if I try this, let's look at the problem. I'm gonna hit enter after that just to kind of separate it as well. So the problem with this right now what is your name? Don. First number 2, second number 5. So that's all worked. That's exactly what I wanted. I'm gonna say yes. This had to be yes, not just Y. Don. First number 3, second number 5. Yes. Okay, what is the first number? So if I make a mistake here, actually I'll do a mistake on the second. What is the second number? GHT, or I'll say 5. I'm sorry, we do not understand your answer. Please enter a number like 7, etc. The problem is the computer continued to run through and execute the rest of the code. It didn't actually generate an error at this point because N2 never received the second number. It was going to generate an error, so it immediately jumped down to accept. So it never stored the value in N2. But the previous time I ran the code, N2 had a value of 5, and that was never changed. So that wouldn't cause a problem in this particular case. But it may not be what I was expecting, right? So if I run this again, and this time, sometimes I don't know what I typed. What is the first number? If I do 3 and now I do 5 here, N2 has never received an assignment, so that should generate an error. It recognized that there was an error, so it says, I'm sorry, I do not understand your answer. But then it continued to do this output, and it tried to send the value FIVEE up here, and then it tried to do, it compared number 1 to number 2. Oh no, in fact, N2 was just never defined. So because N2 was never defined, it tried to send an N2 value, didn't know what it was. So what I need to do is I need to, after this accepting, I got to loop back up to the try again. So that's why this needs to be inside of a second while true statement. all this code. Right, so if I try that, oh, no, just while true. First number, if I make a mistake, or I'm sorry, you do not understand your answer. If you do not understand your answer, please enter a number like 7. What is the first number? I'll go 3 to 8. This is correct this time, but we're still inside this while true loop. So it properly executed lines 37 and 38. It came down and it skipped the except, came down to line 41, says, oh, I'm done the indentation there, but I have to loop back up to my while true. So it's important to, once we've received the successful input, to issue a break to break out of that first loop. And now it works. Okay.